Hello, everyone. Hi, sorry about that. The camera. Hi, everyone. This is Lisa coming back to you, shedding love and light. I'm here today again to speak with you guys on a new topic this Thursday afternoon. Before I begin, just doing a check in with everyone. How's everyone doing today? Checking in and seeing if everyone is okay. We're having a beautiful day outside today, so I hope you're out there enjoying this weather. I was out for a while and it's really nice out. So I hope you get out, you're enjoying the weather. That's important to be outside, you know? Um, Thank you for being here. I want to thank all of my supporters who are watching this channel regularly. And also to my subscribers, thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support. This channel is growing and it's growing, weekly. And I'm thankful for that because that means that you guys are sharing the information here with others. So thank you once again for being here. Now, the topic of discussion today is why it is important to set boundaries. Today is going to be somewhat of a heartfelt discussion, and I'm going to use myself in that discussion, in this discussion today. We're going to talk about, um, I'm going to talk about having some trust issues, betrayals due to betrayals and deception. And I'm going to mix it in as to why it was important for me to set boundaries. Now, many of you already know that in 2020 that I lost a lot of people, about 10 people in total, including my mother and my beloved dog, Rocky. He actually died a year later in 2021. So, but it was just like a domino effect, as I said before, back to back losses. And those losses were really traumatic. So I'm going to sit and talk about some things because what I'm going to talk about here now is probably going to help other people, help someone who's grieving, depressed. And the first thing I'm going to say, people, is that when you are grieving, I have never in my life grieved the way I did between all the losses in 2020. I've lost, family members before in the past and friends and etc., but not to this extent. And even when my dad passed away, I never felt this kind of loss as I, you know, did when I lost my mom and all these other people in 2020. So the grief I had never experienced like that before, and it put me in a little bit of a depression. And the depression, was different because the grief was almost like being bipolar because you can see something. I could see something, a picture, a metaphor, something that reminded me of my mother or my dog or a friend of mine who also passed, and I would go into that grief. And one time I was in a store purchasing some things, and I saw a picture, and I swear to God, this picture um, frame that had this picture of a tree in it looked like the exact tree that I purchased for my mom's gravesite. And I had to uh, push the shopping cart to the side and leave the store because the grief came over me. I couldn't even buy this stuff. I had to leave. And when you're going through grief like that, especially shortly thereafter when your loved ones pass, um, it's traumatic and you're not thinking straight. Sometimes you feel like you have a cloud over your head, and that's how I felt. And so I'm saying all of this because shortly thereafter, I got myself involved in this relationship. And Usually I like to take my time, which I did, but spending a lot of time with this particular person. I'm not going to get into too many details, but I'm trying to make a point here because the points I'm making is going to help somebody else who is currently going through the depression and grief. Um, and I got involved, and I should have never gotten involved in this situation because this person was not for me. There was a lot of things I didn't know about this person, and there was a deception that took place that traumatized me tremendously to the point where I just, it was, it's bad when you're grieving, but then someone comes along and they add to that pain of grief. And that was the place I was in. And so, you're piled up with all this grief, and then someone comes along pretending to be someone that they're not. And the setback just was overwhelming. The setback in the entire situation was so painful that I knew that I had to work on Lisa, on me. It was important for me. Like I said, I always describe these metaphors like being on a ship on a Titanic and it's going down, and everyone is getting off and they're leaving you on there to go down with the ship. And I know I can't allow this to happen to myself. I have to get myself together, and I had to work on me. And so I started going into prayer with God, asking Him to help me to do this because I was like on my knees in a fetal position because of the betrayal. And not just that betrayal. And it doesn't necessarily also have to be a relationship, a dating relationship. It could be friendship. And I had also a situation with that as well, betrayal on top of betrayal while dealing with grief. And I knew I had to get myself together because the grief I was going through and what was happening, people were looking at me like, hey, they can come in and do whatever they want. And I had this cloud over my head because I was grieving. And then I started to go into prayer, asking God to help me. So shortly thereafter, the church got me involved with a therapist. And I started doing the work and talking to the therapist, as I'm talking here, but with more details that I'm not going to share here. And he started giving me work to do little by little. I started to do the work, and I started to self love on me. Like some people don't like being alone and spending time alone. I do, and I learned to self love on myself. I learned to let myself grieve, to cry, because as I was growing up, I was always told, stop crying, stop doing that, you know, because crying was looked upon as a form of weakness. But in reality, people crying is an outlet for the pain. It is a form to strengthen you and to build you up. I am not the same Lisa that I was back then, and I'm still learning things and doing things. But that almost tore me apart, that situation. And it forced me to work on myself. And it forced me to look in a mirror and say, hey, I don't like what people are doing to me. But you know what? It's my fault because I am allowing them to do it. And people can only do to you what you allow. So I started to work on myself and self love on myself, because when you start to love yourself for who you are, you're not going to allow any and everyone to come in. And one of the mistakes I was making is just, befriending people, not really knowing people, and dating people, getting into things and not knowing a person. And because of all this pain, grief, and etc. I went through, what I've learned besides self-love and setting boundaries, what I learned is to take my time. I am extremely self disciplined after going through all this hell. And you can't even imagine some of the things I went through, the dark night of the soul, so to speak, which is the worst kind of hell you can go through, which I'm not going to talk a lot about it here. The people don't even know. And if you can go through that and come back from it, you're a fighter. And what I had to do, because I had to do the work, and the work wasn't easy. And after I start to love on myself, spend time alone, spend time in prayer with God, looking at myself in the mirror, looking at the pros and cons of what I'm doing and what I'm not doing, I started to learn how to set boundaries and to take my time. There was something a few months ago where someone wanted to go out on a date with me and etc. And I told this person, I'm not really, for dating. For me, is to take my time and get to know a person. And then that person didn't want to do that. And I said, well, I'm not the one for you. The old Lisa would have just, twisted herself into whatever that person wanted. I'm no longer that Lisa because I've worked on myself, and this is not a joke. This is not me trying to get more supporters or etc. This is me being my authentic self. And it doesn't matter who likes it or don't like it. I set boundaries. It's important for my growth. And anything I do, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business matter or otherwise, I am going to take my time, look at the details, see what this is about before I jump in head first. And that's what I was doing before that I no longer do. And I'm very self disciplined. And when I talk to people and have conversations and people who have been in my life before, and I talk about certain things, I set boundaries because before I was this subservient Lisa, which I'm not that anymore. I'm very generous and always want to help other people, but boundaries is important. And as I started to set those boundaries, people started to feel some kind of way. And my therapist said, you have to do what is best for you. You can't worry about what people feel. You have to do what works for you. And I started to explain, some people respected the boundaries, many of them didn't. I had to emphasize it again. And when they were crossed again, I cut off, block, and delete. And when I cut off, block, and delete, that's it. There's no going back, and someone in particular who, still trying to, uh, come back, and I'm done. There's no coming back. No matter what they try to do, it's not going to work because I am not going back to the past. I have evolved. I have healed. And when you do the work and you heal, certain people don't understand that. I'm not that same Lisa that you hung out with. I am still Lisa, you know, but not that Lisa. And where I'm just going to be subservient. And because I don't want conflict, I'm just going to let you do whatever you want to me. That's not happening anymore. And it took a long time. And it took a lot of self reflecting, and going back to why I was doing these things and etc. And I'm talking about this because it's so important to set boundaries, especially when you're grieving, because sometimes when you're grieving, you don't see things that you normally would see if you wasn't grieving. And the worst thing to me is to experience betrayals while I'm grieving. And that was happening over and over again. People wasn't respecting that. It's like they were stepping on me. They didn't care that I had all these losses and that I was grieving. They wanted what they wanted from me, and so be it. And then I had to work through why I was allowing those things to happen and to get my life together and to be at the space where I am now. And it doesn't matter about the gossip or whatever. It's to be expected, and I just ignore it and keep it moving because I'm in a place of self-love and light and helping other people. Because there was someone that I really wanted to help that I wish I could have helped who could committed suicide due to depression. And I'm on this channel to help because my story and what I've gone through and how I've uh, what's the word I'm looking for? How I fought through and continue on this course, and I didn't give up, is what helped me through it. My prayers to God, taking Him in everything that I do, has helped me. And it's important for me to pay it forward and help somebody else because there's somebody out there who's in a corner somewhere crying and in depression and contemplating whether they want to be here or not anymore. And that is not okay. We need to reach out and help people. And this platform is one way to get the message across to other people to help them. Somebody needs to hear this story to help them so that they can bite through these things and they can persevere through it. And then once you get through the hard parts, it gets easier. It's not going to be easy at first. It's going to be a lot of work, a lot of pain, but you have to stay the course and not give up and continue to move forward. And that's what I had to do, move forward. And even now, I still have my moments, where just the other night thinking about something I wanted to tell my mom and she's no longer here, and just fighting my way through the grief. It's not as bad as it used to be, but fighting my way through all of this. This is why today I'm here on this platform to help others. Grief can cloud your judgment. It can cause you to make bad decisions while you're going through the grief, decisions that you'll regret later on. And that's why it's important to do the work because so that you can start to get healed and to get better. And as you heal, you start to think clearly and you can help others and pay it forward, and then those others can help other people to pay it forward. I was in a dark place for a long time after all these losses, and people who were I were gravitating to the wrong people who I thought cared about me, cared about my welfare and my well-being, and they were just there to take, or for me to be subservient to them. Not everyone, but many of them. And it just, and I had to remove these people from my life. And it wasn't easy for me, because back then I was still struggling with whether I should remove them or not. But, it was necessary for my benefit so that I can heal and move on with my life and so that I can grow and not stay in a place of stagnation. We don't want to stay in a place of stagnation. We want to grow and heal the pain. Otherwise, we're stuck, and no one wants that feeling. It's not a good feeling. This is the message today. Please share this with someone. And also, doing the work means reaching out to a therapist, Googling a therapist and a bereavement group in your area. That's one way to start, is to look for a therapist, as I always say, in your area, and then connect with one, and then go to a bereavement group, because there are going to be people there who are suffering with grief just as yourself, and they're going to give tips. Some of them will give you tips on what they do to help themselves to get through the process, because it is a process. So please do that. I'm not a therapist. I'm just speaking on my experiences and the work I've done that helped me to grow. And it's important to share that with others so that they can, heal from this pain of grief. You never get over it, but you can get through it. So please, I'm going to be having a seminar next month in person. And for those who are interested, I need to hear from you. So send me an email, because it's going to be mandatory for those who plan to attend to sign up. And the way to RSVP is by email. Lisa Vaughn 410 at gmail.com. Lisa Vaughn is VAUGHN 410 at gmail.com. Please send me an email, and then I will email you back with all of the details for the seminar next month. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support again. Thank you for being here and listening to my story. I'm going to share more of what I do to help myself, and share with you the growth so that it can, help you, and you can share these messages with others. Thank you so much for being here again. This is Lisa sharing love and light with you today. Thank you for being here, and I'll be back again in a day or so with a new message. Stay well and stay blessed. Bye for now.